G'day, my name's Mick, former SAS Patrol Commander, combat veteran. I'm here today to talk to you about what I take out bush over about a 3 to 4 day period. What we've got is an eclectic mix of equipment and items, and I'll talk you through this from the front to the rear. What I've got here as sort of a ground sheet are 2 backpack bed dry bags, which are good kit. On the first one, on the front one here, I've got all my essentials. So I never leave home without these pretty much, unless I'm going shopping. I don't take this shopping. But if I'm going out in the bush or out the back country, as you call it in the States, this is what I leave home with. At the back here is my more luxury items. So these are the nice to have. These make the experience a lot more comfortable. But this is all you need. Well, you need far less than this to survive, but unless you're a trained survivalist or got a bit of a clue out in the backwoods, I'd suggest that something like this. And this is just my opinion. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge, so I'll work from left to right as I look at it. First of all, we've got some hydration. This has been to a few exciting places, Afghanistan, Iraq, places like that. It's just been covered up. This was silver with a bit of war paint on there just so it doesn't shine. Now that carries about a litre and a half in there, and that in summer will keep the water nice and hot for about 36 hours. In winter, depending on the temperatures and how you carry it, for about 18 to 24. Why have I got hot water rather than just normal water? One, I can get water using the old life straw or something like that from anywhere, but this also allows me to have a brew. And a brew is an Australian military term for a cup of tea, cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but a cup of tea, particularly when things get hard, having that hot brew, that hot chocolate or something like that, it really is lifts the spirit. So we've got that. In the front here, we've got some insect repellent, we've got some sterilising tablets, and we've got what we call a Millbank filter and Ziplock bags. You can never have enough Ziplock bags, love them. Many uses. And this is just used, you put the water in there and it's just used for clarification. So that's your first step in your water clarification, purification process. If you don't have that, I know there's some people out there that say use your socks. Yeah, you know what, I'm not sure how clean their feet are, but if once my feet have been in my socks for anything more than an hour, I wouldn't be using those. I wear a two shirt system all the time. One, it helps, the inside one is a wicking shirt, draws that moisture away from me, keeps me cool or warm depending on the time of year. I would use my outer shirt in a place that that's not going to be too dirty, too sweaty. Okay, so that's what I do. I've got some paracord here. This is really good. This is high breaking strain. This is really strong stuff. So I use this for ascending, descending, making shelters, rafts, whatever. But you can also cut this open. You see there, you see those white fibers inside? There's a stack of those in there. I can actually hang off, you can hang a human being off one of those. But that also makes fairly reasonable fishing line. So all you do is carry a couple of hooks with you. Marker panel, always take a marker panel. This one's not too big, not too heavy, but it's enough to be seen by a rescue aircraft from a reasonable height. Big, clear plastic bag. Water catching, water carrying, but also for transpiration. If you don't know what transpiration is, Google it. Signal mirror, so you can look at your pretty face, but you can also signal an aircraft. Space blanket, and again, backpack beds do a good one there. Whistle with a little compass, emergency compass in there. That's good to go. A lot of this stuff I carry on my person, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Now I've got this bad boy here. There's a number of brands that do this, but this is a beacon. You can send texts, and it's a GPS all in one. So and you can track it on. You can send the tracking information back to a number of platforms. If I've got that and I'm traveling light, I probably won't take the satellite phone. But I'm a big fan of the PACE philosophy, and that stands for primary, alternate, contingency and emergency. So I like to have a number of platforms for communications, particularly because when you need comms, those in the military will know, as soon as your comms are critical, comms will go down. And by comms, I mean communications. I'll then have the, we call the battle brolly, the umbrella. Good bit of kit, provides shade, can stop the wind a little bit, can collect water in it if you invert it, and it'll keep you dry. In fact, I don't even carry a, if you turn it like that and it rains, you can collect water. I don't even carry a raincoat most times because this does the job. Poo tickets, I think, you know, if the zombie apocalypse happened, so toilet paper for those that don't understand what poo tickets are. What am I going to miss the most out of the civilised world? I reckon it'd be toilet paper, because having tried the bush alternatives, yeah, no, I'm a fan. Over here, and again, if you're travelling light, some sort of chemical warmer is not a bad thing, because even in summer in the desert, it's not the temperature it gets down to, it's the variance from day to night. So that's just good there for a survival situation. I typically carry a bush saw so I can cut stretcher poles or for shelters or whatever. And this is a pretty Gucci one that just comes apart like that and then just goes back together, just like that. Good bit of kit. Multi-tool is always good. I carry a number of knives because unless you've got a really quite a large knife, I use knives for different things. You know, whether it be skinning, whether it be normal cutting, chopping, all that sort of stuff. So multi-tool is not a bad thing. Cigarette lighter, always carry one of those, even though I never leave home without my flint and striker. Now, along with that, I usually have in a Ziplock bag, I haven't got one here today, is a number of cotton wool balls, because they are excellent tinder. You get a good strike on that straight away, and off you go. Life straw, good bit of kit. Headlamp, I prefer a headlamp over a handheld torch because it frees up both your hands. And I have one. This one's got a red filter and just normal light. I normally take an emergency shelter with me, but because we've got the backpack bed, that's pretty much redundant now. Cup of tea, nice Earl Grey, love it. Racing spoon. Compass, proper compass. I mean, the button compass is fine. If you've got a watch, you can always use that for solar nav and celestial nav anyway. But it's always good, particularly if you're in close country. The more accurate you are with your bearing and paces, the less likely you are to become geographically embarrassed. Typically run a strobe. This has an IR cover, primarily to bring aircraft in at night or to mark your location at night. Sunnies, got to have them, particularly if you're in arid desert locations. These ones are safety glasses, ballistically rated. If you're going to go hard, you might as well get the real deal, because if you lose your sight, you're up. Spare batteries, and I typically carry a 9-volt battery, because you come across anything metal, you can actually arc that out and start a spark there. It's good on steel wool or things like that. And then this is my emergency ration, so I'll carry most of that on me. Carry a tourniquet, again, a bit of luxury because you can use a belt, you can use a number of things, but tourniquets are gold. Trauma shears, that'll cut through anything, and you can do your nails with them as well. That's a joke, by the way. And a basic first aid kit. In here I've got coughs, colds, sore holes, a little burns kit, and some wound dressings, compression dressing, bandage for snake bite, scorpion bite, that sort of thing. Ruggedised phone, because I'm not going to be surfing the internet while I'm out there. Bit of digital decompression, and a spare power pack. This is primarily just it's my camera, and it's also for emergencies. Then over here, because I'm old school anyway, I take a topo map, topographical map of the area I'm going to. If I can get a satellite image, a recent one, That's good because it shows you the vegetation. Because one thing that's going to ruin your day is if you think it's going to be fairly sparse vegetation, it gets in there and it's a lot of vines or secondary growth in there. To keep warm, a bit of comfort, all I carry a little silk, and I would use that with the backpack bed if it was a hot night. Just that little silk would do you great. Breathable, semi-wind stopper, shower proof, lightweight jacket, pair of gloves, keep the hands warm, and because you lose about 20% through your head, nice beanie. I mean, it doesn't have to be camouflaged, just so happens that this one is, and the only reason I carry that is because it's got a backup torch in the built-in. Doesn't have red filter though. So there's that, and I typically carry a couple of fairly large Ziplock bags. These have been reinforced with 100 mile-an-hour tape, gaffer tape, because they're just good for keeping stuff dry. Even though items say they're waterproof or water resistance, even smartphones and things like that, trust me, if they spend enough time in heavy rain or underwater, they aren't. So that's the essentials, I guess. So coming back here, we've got the luxury. More food. That little pile and that little pile will do me for 3 days. You'll be hankering after a big steak at the end of that, but and certainly even if you've just got that, you're not going to die. So you can last 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Bit of a crash dieting program, that one. A bit more of a luxurious spoon. You've got a bit of a knife there, so if you're not used to just using a spoon to eat all your food with, you can grab one of those. And typically I take that as well, because sure as the sun rises, you're going to lose this bad boy, and then using your fingers is not necessarily for everyone. Nice strong light. So this is an LED. It'll punch out to about 100 meters with a nice strong beam. And the idea behind that is the beasties at night time don't necessarily like that. And you can also impress people about your celestial navigation and star sign knowledge. Good compact knife. This one's a SOG. Good blade, serrated edge, so it can be used for multiple things. Obviously on the person for that. Bigger wound dressing, Israeli bandage, good for trauma. Usually put a little bit of sunscreen in there because the elements are unkind. That probably should be in there, but if I had to leave, if space was tight, I'd leave that into the luxury stuff. I carry secateurs rather than a machete, because between the bush saw and these, there's not too much you can't deal with. And in the jungle, a lot of vines and that, because they hang, they just bounce. So they're very hard to cut with a machete, whereas you just get this bad boy in there and it's quiet, it's quick, and it's very effective. Little set of binos, because if you're out in the wilderness, you might as well have a good look around. And it's amazing, particularly when you're on some high ground or you've decided to go up a tree for a look around. The detail that you can pick up is pretty good. And they also will enhance your vision at night time to a degree. Now this isn't something out of an Austin Powers movie. This is a little Msr Filter Pump, which works in a similar fashion to the Life Straw, just give you a larger volume much quicker, so you can refill your water bottles, and I typically take that. Another charging source, some solar panels, depending. Obviously if you go in the jungle, that's no good, but if you're out in the desert, then that's gold, because you don't want to lose your comms. Extra water, so if I'm going for 3 days, 2 litres a day is more than enough, even with dehydrates, even with dehydrated food. And then extra Ziplock bags, just because I like Ziplock bags. And I'd probably take at least one of these, possibly 2 of these dry bags that I've used for as a ground sheet here. So that's me in a nutshell. That there is all I need. Obviously if the weather's colder or wetter, I'd throw in some more warm gear. And if I wasn't taking the, if I didn't have the backpack bed with its sleeping system in there, then I'd take a sleeping bag and some sort of fly, hoochie type arrangement to cover.